and we are group 2, and the situation we picked was the second one where the person is struggling with throwing, and our person is a 30-year-old male who is 6'1" and 210 pounds.
So a little bit about our guy here. So he wants to be a baseball player, well, a pitcher to be exact. And a little bit about his sports history is as a child, he wasn't exposed to many sports. So that's a big one there. If you're not exposed to the fitness and sports, that's gonna play an impact when you're older. So even as in his like late adulthood, he wanted to make money, which is nothing wrong with that. But when you talk about fitness, that's a big deal. So he didn't put enough time in for fitness, and he didn't have enough intrinsic motivation as a child. So when we talk about what we need for him is we need to improve his exposure to fitness and sport. I have chapter 7, which deals with childhood development in terms of being the fundamental skills in childhood. And so we want to work with the movements, right? So as a child, he wasn't exposed to fitness like we said in sports. So his movements are very restricted. So stuff like twisting and running and all the good stuff doesn't really have much experience with that aspect. So we have to work with that. And then even like when it comes to object control, manipulative skills, so that skill here would be throwing the ball, overarm throwing to be exact. So we want to work with that, make sure that he has that experience in that situation. And I also have chapter 8 that deals with adulthood, right? So now he's 30 years old, right? He's 30, he wants to learn how to be a pitcher. Nothing wrong with that. Some say that it's too late. It's too late to learn new skills and fitness at 30 years old, but that's wrong. We may have to make some adaptations and some changes, but it can be done. So there's a lot of age-restricted problems in terms of when you get older. One of them being fitness. So our guy here, he likes to work. He has to work, right? So his schedule sometimes conflicts with his desire to be fit. So that can be a problem. Even his age-restricted movement, right? So he wants to be able to move around pretty well. We have to increase that. So the way we can do that is with resistance training. Lifting weights, even like something that's portable as a resistance band, you can take anywhere you go, vacation, etc. So we got some goals here. Again, twisting and running, right? He wasn't exposed to that as a child. So we want to do some stretches for your hip flexors. A lot of pro athletes miss that factor. You should do some stretches for your hip flexors, very important. Even running, if you want to improve his cardiorespiratory endurance. Yes, throwing the baseball doesn't require you to run, a mile, but even just, if you're doing reps, that's going to require you to have some type of endurance. And then if you want to talk about even like the equipment that's needed, no, right? Sociocultural factor, if you want to put him in an empty space. At 30 years old, you're not looking for a crowd. He's not looking to join the team. We want to save the kind of like the age embarrassment. So put him in an empty space and that'll be fine.
Chapter 9 talks about physical development and proprioception, which talks about body awareness and how the person can think of where their body is compared to what movements they need to make and their form and limbs.
All right, so chapter 10, physical aging. So basically this chapter just shows us the breakdown of the body as we age. It talks about visionary, it talks about auditory, it talks about postural breakdown. So we're going to focus on here is stature, specifically posture, and a result from constant, poor posture and weak back muscles is kyphosis. And what kyphosis is basically a rounded upper back. So you're basically just going to be like this, and this is going to cause a shortening or a compression of your discs. And this is just, a cause of just poor posture and poor back muscles over time. But if we relate this to throwing, how am I going to teach someone how to properly throw if their upper back is rounded? I need them to abduct their arm like this. They're not going to be able to do it as efficiently as someone that has proper posture and can simply just abduct their arm like this. It's going to be very hard for them because they're rounded over and they don't have that full, flexibility. They don't have that full range of motion. So how can we fix this? Just incorporate a stretching routine. We can incorporate downward dogs. We can incorporate cat and cow poses. We can incorporate a simple arm across the body, which is going to stretch out the shoulder. And then we can just incorporate, strength training exercises or resistance training exercises. We can do, rear delt flies to strengthen the rear delts. We can do face pulls with a rope and a cable to strengthen the upper trap and lower traps. And this is really going to overall just help the posture and help build a nice foundation in order to, get this easy movement to bring the arm here, or to put the foot here. It's just gonna be a lot more efficient for the person over time. Okay, now reaction time.
So reaction time. So, reaction time, right? When we think about reaction time, we think about having to move away from a certain stimulus or having to catch, whatever the case may be, right? It's more of a physical adaptation. But in this situation, throwing the ball is more of a choice of reaction time. So knowing when to release the ball, that's reaction time. Knowing when to step, knowing when to cock your arm back, that's reaction time, right? So Brittany here is going to actually show us how we can put this movement and translate it on the field or wherever you are to, throw the overarm throwing.
All right, cool, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So we're gonna have Cam stand here. We're gonna have Brooklyn stand over here. And what I want Cam to do is, first of all, just get into this position like I am here. Just feet shoulder width apart. And then first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna step with this lead leg, and we're gonna bring the arm back to a 3 o'clock position. 3 o'clock, and then you're gonna do it counterclockwise all the way to a 9 o'clock position. And then when I see you get to that 9 o'clock position, I'm gonna say release. And that's really gonna teach your body, teach your movement pattern, that when you go from here to here, this is when you're released. You're not releasing at the 12, you're not releasing at the 11 or the 10. It's really gonna help you focus that when I say release, we're releasing at that 9 o'clock position. That's just gonna drive home the movement that we're trying to, fix. So you can see this demonstration real quick. So Cam's gonna take that step with the lead foot, bring the arm to 3 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock, and then keep going, release. Perfect, just release like that, and do it one more time. So yep, shoulder width apart, lead step, keep going, release right at the 9 o'clock position. So as you can see over time, it's gonna help Cam really understand that we're releasing at that 9 o'clock position, we're releasing at this position, not this position. All right, so I'm gonna demonstrate proprioception real quick. So let's say I'm telling the person to bring the arm fully back. They understand what I'm saying. They understand that I want them to bring the arm fully back. But when they bring their arm fully back, they're only bringing it right here. So they don't really have knowledge, or they don't really know how far their arm is coming back. So they think it's coming back here, but I'm watching them, and it's only coming back to here. Or if I'm telling them to take that full strap on their stride when they're going to throw, they think they're bringing that full stride, they think they're bringing that full step, but in reality, their leg is only going to right here. So I really want them to focus on maybe watching where their limbs are going, so they're watching the arm come fully back, or they're watching their lead foot take that full step. It's really gonna help with this proprioception aspect that we're talking about. All right, so chapter 11, cognitive development. This chapter really showed us how we develop as far as our knowledge, as far as our attention, and our memory development. So what this chapter talked about is procedural knowledge, and procedural knowledge is knowing how the movement is done mentally. So let's say our client was, they watched baseball for the past 10 years. They're a fan of it, but they never played it before. So they know, mentally, they know how to perform the movement. They know that the arm comes back here. They know that this, lead foot steps here. But when I give them the ball and I say, hey, perform the movement, they have poor execution of the movement. So, the abilities physically aren't really lined up with the abilities mentally. So even though they've watched it so many times, they say, hey, I can do it, the physical abilities aren't really lining up. So how to fix this, the chapter 11 also discusses verbal labels. So I can give the person a verbal cue or a verbal label to help them understand that this is how I want you to properly throw the ball. So let's say I have them here, and then I tell them to bring their arm back to this 3 p.m. position, and I say I want you to go counterclockwise all the way to the 9 p.m. position. So they're going here, and then they're releasing, just as we did the drill earlier. That's where they're going to learn how to properly release the ball. And then also a way I can fix this, this poor, physical movement pattern is just break it down in steps. I can be like, hey, I want you to do this and this, steps 1 and 2. And then, if I can get them efficient at doing 1 and 2, it's gonna be less of a strain on them to really think that, hey, I have to go from here to here to here to here. If I can get them to focus on 1 and 2, these are gonna flow so much better, and then they're gonna be able to focus on here, and then following through, and then all the other stuff. So breaking down the steps is gonna help them, really understand the core of the movement and the fundamentals of the movement, rather than just saying, hey, here's 20 different things, I want you to do them all at once. So.
Chapters 12 and 13 focus on psychosocial contributions to motor development, and chapter 13 mainly focuses on the changes in adulthood that affect movement. Self-regulation is very important because all adults need these skills. It is a process in which people use goal-related behaviors to achieve or sustain certain thoughts and feelings and also behaviors. There are 5 stages to a process that was created to work with self-regulation. The first one being problem identification, which focuses on where the person does not just identify the problem, but also decides if it is worth it or not to work on it. The second one is commitment, which is where the person needs to focus on, are they 100%ly focused on achieving this goal and working on their development. The third one is execution, which focuses on the action state of the goals and what they're doing to execute the goals. The first one is environmental management, which focuses on managementing the environmental and social barriers that can happen. And then the fifth one is generalization, which is where they focus on keeping this process for a long time and not just a short time. There are 3 strategies that you can use to help this. The first being goal setting, which is where people make long-term or short-term goals to improve their performance and focus on achieving something. Self-talk is also important because it can help you with your performance. Positive self-talk will help and negative self-talk will not, because the more negative thoughts you feel, the more it's going to affect you and your performance. Imagery is also important because it focuses on using a person's senses to help their performance. The mind is very important and can help a person in their performance and how they improve with this throwing